Hello everyone, I welcome you all to this lesson. Today I am going to discuss on the topic Dover Beach, which is written by Matthew Arnold. In this video children, I'll be dealing with the important question and answers, and these question answers will be very helpful for you in your exam. Please listen carefully so that you get very good marks in your exam. And before starting this chapter, the important question answers, let me ask you, have you subscribed to my channel? If you have not subscribed up till now, then please do. And watch the video till end. And press the like button if you have liked my video. And I'm sure you are going to like them because these question answers will be very helpful for you in your exam. So children, let us start with question number 1. And my first question is, discuss the moonlit scene described by the poet at the beginning of the poem. And the answer is, it is the night hour of the day and the sea is calm and quiet, filled with water at high tide. The moon shines brightly upon the narrow English Channel, staring at the French coast at a far off distance. The poet sees the light gleaming on it. Later, as the light goes off, he concentrates on the English shore instead. The famous cliffs of Dover stand tall and their large wavering reflections in the quiet sea. The poet asks his lady to come to the window to enjoy the sunset night, air coming from where the sea meets the moonlit land of France. He asks her to listen to the continuous and the irritating sound of the pebbles drawn by the waves. The waves are drawing the stones backwards to the sea and then again throw them back onto high shore on their return journey. The sound of the waves begins, stops, and then begins again. This trembling rhythm continues slowly, but now it brings the eternal note of sadness. The monotonous rhythm of the waves makes the poet depressed, hence changing the tone of the poem from cheerful to melancholy mood. So here what happens, that the thought of internal human miseries and sadness, the poet is reminded of the ancient Greek playwright Sophocles, and the images of human sufferings surface like muddy water flowing in and out. Now I move towards question number 2. And my question is, how does the poet introduce the note of melancholy and disturbance in this context? What does he say about the faith? And the answer to this question is, from the initial moment of love, beauty and pleasure, the poet shifts towards the theme of sadness, melancholy means sad, and disturbance. The sound of the sea waves makes the poet think of human miseries which are there in the past, which is there in the present, and is likely to be there in the times to come. Arnold mentions about the lack of faith in modern societies, the internal human miseries and sadness, the fearful uncertainty underlying the beauty of modern world. He says, for the world which seems to lie before us like a land of dreams hath really neither joys nor love nor light. So he is talking, the poet is talking about man's depleting faith in God and religion. The sea of faith is fast receding. There was a time when the faith, like the sea, girdled the world and sustained human beings. Now, this sea is fast retreating, leaving behind bare and naked shingles. Doubts, confusion, and uncertainties have created a spiritual crisis by replacing religious faith. So, children, now I come to question number 3. I hope you are understanding what the answer should be. You can write down in your own word. This is only a way to tell you how to write in order to get full marks, in order to get very good marks. So my third question is, what does the poet say about the world in which he finds himself? What is the only hope left for the mankind? And the answer to this question is, the poet urges his lady love to be sure to one another, as the new world, which appears to be so beautiful, does not evoke much hope to him. To him, his dreamy modern world is not really a source of joy, love, light, certainty, peace, or a reliever of pain. Hence, this chaotic, artificial world does not induce much hope in him. The poet compares the new world to a dark place where we are completely unaware of what we are doing. We are in a confused struggle as ignorant soldiers fight with each other in the darkness. Hence, the poet assesses the morally corrupted modern world full of vanity. Now I move towards question number 4. Discuss the various themes in the poem Dover Beach, which are simultaneously highlighted by Matthew Arnold. So children, in this question you have to write down the various themes of the poem, which are really very important for you in your exams. So the answer to this question is, Matthew Arnold's poem Dover Beach is one poem full of imagery narrating various themes in its background. The poem is about the poet's lament on the transition of the age from the religious faith to the one man inspired by science and technology. Arnold speaks about the resulting miseries in the life of humans, leaving no scope of hope in the poet's heart. So the first theme is man and the natural world, or man versus natural world. The poem is practically overflowing with deep philosophical thoughts, yet rooted in the natural world that the poet sees all around him. The sight of the moonlit night by the ocean makes the poet ponder upon the world's history and its future, where at one end the calm sea, the fair moon, the sweet night air speaks about the natural beauty and the associated positivity and joy in human's life, while on the other hand the retreating water and the darkling plain trends to intimidate our thoughts with uncertainty, mystery, and an approaching danger in the near future. My second theme of the poem is sadness and suffering. So, from the initial moments of love, beauty, and pleasure, the poem shifts towards the theme of sadness when Arnold mentions about the lack of the faith in the modern societies, the eternal human miseries and sadness, the fearful uncertainty underlying the beauty of modern world. Thus, the world is just an endless and confusing wilderness of pain. My third theme is loss of spirituality. Dover Beach focuses on the poet's concern about the loss of spirituality, looking back, longing to a time when people were more spiritual and had more faith in the divine guidance. Now that is mostly gone, with the marked influence of science and technology and the absence of faith, the world is left naked, vulnerable, and miserable. My next question is question number 5. Write the critical analysis of the poem Dover Beach by Matthew Arnold. So this is a English Victorian poet, children, which is written by Matthew Arnold, the most famous poet, and his most famous poem Dover Beach. So this is a dramatic monologue where the poet expresses his frustration and hopelessness of the modern chaotic world. The poet was writing at a time when religion was under tremendous pressure from the science and the evolutionary theory, technology, and was taking a grip on life. The poet thought that poetry would replace the conventional religion and become the new spiritual force in the society. Hence, the poet had expressed his doubts about the modern world where there is neither joy, nor love, nor light, nor certitude, nor place, nor help for pain. It has been created by the decline of faith, the religious faith. The poet begins with a straightforward description of nature, with the poet calling out to his lady love to see the beautiful sea and to hear the sound of the waves. The setting is inside a room, perhaps a hotel, on the coast of the English Channel near Dover. The two poet and his beloved are looking outside their window at the French coast across the sea. The interpretation of the poem can be divided into two parts. The first part, the poet talks about the resounding on the waves on the pebble beach. It is just in the backyard which later leads to the real consequences. In the second part, he expresses his deep feeling about the real situation in the world that is changing rapidly, the growth of science and technology, and has become strangely unreal, which, though a beautiful but lacks all the positive virtues like love, faith, peace, etc. Hence, the world has transmission from the age of certainty into the era of erosion of traditional and loss of faith. The poem also presents the reader with a virtual journey through time. Time is represented by the image of the sea with the vastness evoking powerful admiration. So the theme mutuality follows closely because of the sea's unreliable nature. It is presented as something unevitable and insecure, and in its turn leads on to the theme of human staying true and honest to one another. The poem breaks away from many traditional stylistic forms. It is an open-ended verse, an irregular rhyme and rhythm. The structure of the poem is unique. It consists 37 lines divided into 4 stanzas, none of which are alike. Various literary devices are used in the poem like enjambment, visual and auditory images, simile, metaphor, assonance and alliteration. So children, now I move towards question number 6. Discuss the various symbols, imagery and allegory used in the poem Dover Beach in detail. In the poem Dover Beach, Matthew Arnold has made an extensive use of symbols and imagery to add the naturalistic effect in the poem, along with their thematic significance to make the message clear to the readers. So we are going to study each symbol in detail. First symbol is the sea. So, in this symbol, the sea is everywhere in Dover Beach. It shows up at different places and in different forms, but its power can be felt all over the place. At times, its physical location that one can actually see, like the English Channel or the Aegean Sea, and sometimes it morphs into a metaphor for the fate of humanity. The opening line of the poem focuses on simple image of the sea. We start with this calm and vivid picture in our heads, and from there everything slowly dissolves away to an extent that towards the end behind the calm ocean. Another important and powerful image of the sea meeting the land. The poet spends long enough time to make the readers really see the vision of the coast of England in the moonlight. Speaking about the Aegean Sea, he connects himself to Sophocles, hence, the sea becomes a part of historical illusions. In this poem, the metaphor of human belief in a higher power. The real sea of the English Channel is reimagined and a sea of faith. The second symbol used in the poem is the tide. The imagery of tide is another reoccurrence of the poem. The slow, steady, and endless movement of the water in and out becomes the symbol of eternity. In the line, the tide is full. The tide is shown merely as a part of landscape. Its fullness depicts the feeling of calmness and happiness. The ebb and flow of the tide is used as a metaphor for the happiness that comes and goes in human life. The rise and fall of tide becomes the symbolic guidance, the rhythm of the poem, ebb and flow of human miseries. In the line, its melancholy long withdrawing roar. The tide is again metamorphically linked with human faith. Although it does not go in and out, it just rolls back forever. My third symbol is the moon. The opening of the moon, the opening of the poem is so much all about the world that we see, and the moon is one of the crucial features. In the line, the moon lies fair. So here the moon is a part of happy natural imagery that helps to establish a sense of calmness among the readers. The moon is described as fair, symbolizing a beauty at large. However, referring to the moon-blanched land gives the slight hint that everything is not just great. There is something sinister about the moon, which makes us think of something being unnaturally pale, maybe even a little death-like. Next symbol is the night. The night was a kind of a flexible image due to the changing roles of the poem. In the line, sunset is night air. Sunset is the night air. The night time sounds great and connects with the feeling of comforts and calms. The night being sweet becomes the figure of speech, and the opening line in the poem and this line in the poem fits beautifully. However, towards the end of the poem, the night becomes a part of much more sinister set ideas connected metamorphically with all the pain and suffering of humanity. In the lines of the night, wind down, the vast edges dear and the naked shingles of the world. The night is presented as a symbol of desolation and fear. The night wind sounds a bit evil and threatening and howls around a lonely and vulnerable vulnerable world. So the night symbolizes emotional and intellectual darkness, where ignorant armies' clash of night implies that there is a clash of ideas and emotions. My next symbol is naked shingles, which means it is one pure and bleak images that describes the desolation of the modern world. In the line and naked shingles of the world, shingle means the rock that lie on the shore, while the with the imaginary, Arnold has suggested the feeling of hopelessness, of hopeless emptiness and vulnerability that are some of the miseries of human life. My next symbol is the darkling plain. So this is the imaginary landscape where the final simile comes to the catastrophic end. The image of this pitch dark battlefield is far from the pleasure and calmness exhibited in the beginning of the poem. The line from the poem, and we are here on the darkling plain. The poet compares the human existence to a dark battlefield where friends and enemies clash together and fight each other in utter confusion. I hope, children, you are understanding what answers I am giving to you for these particular questions. So my next question is question number 7. And the question is the world completely good or completely bad? Is it possible to paint all humans in one color of character? And the answer to this question is Dover Beach is a poem with a complete portrayal of society. Through this poem, the poet has represented the Victorian period as a whole, the tone and mood of then society. It was a time when science and evolutionary theories were rising an immense pressure and an immense pressure on religion as a threat to the existence. Technology was taking away peace and faith both out of life. Through this poem, the poet thought that the poetry may replace the importance of religion and rise as a new spiritual source of the dying society. So the melancholy tone of the poem is wonderful treat by the poet. This inspired a lot of writers to take a melancholy tone in their works. While reasoning, the poet sombre tone. It looks like if he is coming to terms with the way the world works, feeling depressed and sad. So this poem, The Dover Beach, is a perfect portrait of the Victorian era, but the poet seems lost lonely in this situation, unable to converge. So Dover Beach is a perfect picture of Victorian society, children. So we may conclude that this world is and will always be a mix of good and bad, as each supports the others to make the world move. And when we are experiencing crumbling the old establishment where people were losing faith in God with the development of science and technology, the poet made a great effort to crave their complete picture of then world's goodness and evil. So children, now I move towards question number 8. And the question is, how is the sea? How the sea is used both as a physical presence and as a metaphor in Matthew Arnold's Dover Beach. Write a note on Arnold's use of seascape. See children, I am giving you the main points. You can also describe in detail using your own imaginations, using your own vocabulary, and using your own the style of writing. So this answer is, and the answer to question number 8 is, the sea is everywhere in Dover's Beach. It shows up in different places and in different forms. 3 seas are referred in the poem Dover Beach. Sometimes it is physical location, something you can actually see, like the English Channel or the Aegean Sea, and sometimes it's morphed into a metaphor for the fate of humanity. The Northern Sea is the sea the speaker is looking on at Dover. The Aegean Sea, which Sophocles had heard centuries ago, and the metamorphical sea of faith. Each of these seas brings the speaker's mind some specific thoughts about the human existence. In the line 7 and 8, the sea meets the land. So it's important to notice that how much time the poet spends making us real see the vision of the closest England in the moonlit. The phrase long line of spray, which describes the result when the sea meets the land, introduces action. The sea later turns into a huge metaphor in the poem. For now, its use is pretty. So, children, in the line, the sea is a part of historical illusion. So, the poet uses the sea to connect him with the ancient playwright, the Greek tragedy writer Sophocles, and wonder if long ago. So, in ancient Greece, the writer may have sat beside Aegean Sea and also reminded of the endless suffering of men. In this, now the next line which has been mentioned in the poem is the sound of sea rather than the visual image of sea. So the poet says, he expresses the idea in line 21-28 that watching sea has elicited the sea of faith. This is a metaphor for faith in God that comforted mankind in the earlier period. So the waves roar and the wind blows down dark and the naked shore. Hence, the poet implies words like melancholy, withdrawing, roar, retreating, terror, and naked to convey a sense of loss and despair, and he uses images of the sea which is no longer calm as before, neither the night air sweet nor the shoreline glimmering in the moonlight. So children, now I move towards question number 9, and the answer to this question is, so children, question number 9, and the question is, Dover Beach combines beautiful natural description with a commentary on the temporary situation discussed. So the answer to this question is, Dover Beach is a poem with a complete portrayal of society. Through poem, the poet has given us the description and has represented the Victorian period as a whole. It is a tone mood of the society. It was a time when the science and evolutionary theories were rising with immense pressure on religion as a threat to its existence. Technology was taking away peace and faith both out of life. So through this poem, the poet thought that the poetry may replace the importance of religion and rise as a new spiritual source in the tiring society. The melancholy tone of this poem is a wonderful treat to Matthew Arnold, the poet. This inspired a lot of readers to take on the melancholy tone in their works. While reasoning Arnold's somber tone, it looks like he is coming to the terms with the way the poet works, feeling depressed and sad. Dover Beach is just a perfect portrait of the Victorian era, but the poet seems lost and lonely in his situation, unable to converse with the human being next to him. So the poem starts off with the hopeful note, but at the end of the poem, in its last stanza, it unveils the harshness of the world and the poet's discontent with the way things were shifting at this point. So children, we can see how the time was shifting, how the poet was is trying to establish from the happy mood to the melancholy mood. So the poet is aware of the philosophical changes arising in the Western society. He has experienced the crumbling of old establishments where people were losing their faith in God, and with the development of science and technology. And the poet has made a great effort to carve out the complete picture of the later world's goodness and evil. In the first stanza, the poet says that a candid portrayal of the sea with the effects of light on it, though there is a momentary excitement which concludes that the moon-struck sea induces sadness. A perfect ray of melancholy flows into the second stanza. In the third stanza, the idea of religion is introduced. The reader now enjoys the contrast between the low tide of faith and the high tide of evolution of science and technology. In vacuum, the speaker, that is the poet, suggests that only well-woven love between individuals can withstand the negative forces in the world in the fourth stanza. So children, hope you are understanding. Stanza wise I am giving you the meaning, what the poet wants to speak. This kind of love can bring meaning to an otherwise confused and confusing world. By the end, it can be summed up that Dover Beach is a perfect picture of the Victorian society. It causes sufferings and its achievements. The poet work portrays all shades of human character in the poem with the help of his changing mood and tone. Stanza wise, we may conclude that this world is and will always be a mix of good and bad, as each supports the other to make the world move. Yes, children, now question number 10. Dover Beach brings out the loss of faith in the modern world. Discuss with close reference to the text. So the answer to this question is Dover Beach is one of the most famous poems of Matthew Arnold, where he expresses his regret and dissatisfaction at the loss of faith in God and the spiritual degradation of the society. The poem begins with a beautiful description of nature where the sea is calm and quiet, the tide is full, and the moon lies fair on every corner of this beautiful landscape. The romantic and calm mood suddenly disappears, and the saddening tone of the flickering of faith in God was presented by the line, "The light gleams and is gone." With the advent of science and technology, traditional religious beliefs were questioned by the people, and the existence of God and the whole Christian scheme of things was cast in doubt. Arnold, who was deeply religious, lamented on the dying of the light of faith, as symbolized by the light he sees on Dover Beach, which glimpses for a moment and fades away with the next moment. The poet explains the gradual loss of man's faith in a grand and suggestive smile. The poet has compared faith and religion to a sea that surrounds the world. The sea has its full tide and then ebbs away with the mournful music over the pebbles. It brings the eternal note of sadness which makes the speaker depressed. The speaker further says, "The sea of faith was once too at the full and round earth shore." So this means that the faith of the world once covered the whole earth like the sea. It was at its fullest as the tide is now. Faith covered the world like folds of the bright girdle. It is suggestive of the fact that faith once used to be strong and protected people from doubt and despair, just like the sea wraps itself around the continents of the world. However, the sea of faith has receded. It was once at its flow and now is at its ebb. Due to the advancement of science and technology, modern men tend to believe in science more than in God. The poet is distressed by the fact that he compares society without faith in God and religion with the naked shingles. After the tide ebbs away from shore, the world is swallowed by darkness. It is unreal and deceptive. The world is like a battlefield at night where soldiers run after shadows and fire them, unable to tell friends from foes. So children, I have given you the answer for 10 questions. Few questions I am giving you for you to write and learn how to write the answers, and these questions are very important. And the question is question number 11. How does the poet introduce the note of melancholy and disturbance? In this context, what does he say about faith in the poem Dover Beach? Question number 12. What does the poet say about the world in which he finds himself? What is the only hope left for mankind? So you have to write these questions so that you are able to write in the exam. My next question is, what is the significance of the allusion to Sophocles in the poem Dover Beach? These are your practice questions. How is the metaphor of the sea used in the poem Dover Beach? This is your question number 14. Now question number 15. Briefly narrate the summary of the poem Dover Beach. Question number 16. How is the sea? How the sea is used both as a physical presence and as a metaphor in Matthew Arnold's Dover Beach. Write a note on Arnold's use of seascapes. Question number 17. Discuss the various symbols, imagery, and allegory used in the poem Dover Beach. Question number 18. Why does the poet shift from the third person to the second person narration in the poem Dover Beach? Question number 18. Now my next question is question number 19. And this question, children, write these answers, okay? Only then you will be able to write in your exam. Question number 19. Analyze the poem Dover Beach and discuss how the loss of faith affects the poet and his thoughts. Question number 20, and this is my last question. How does the celebration of nature's beauty and the lamenting of absence of faith come together in the poem? So children, I have given you 10 practice questions and 10 answers I have given you in this video. I hope it will be sufficient for you to understand this lesson very well and to come out with flying colors. Do share, subscribe and watch my channel. Like, press the bell icon, and also do not forget to give your comment. So children, with these notes, hope this lesson will be beneficial for you in your exam, and so please watch. Thank you, and thank you for watching.